The Democratic Party has some momentum this morning. The Cook Political Report showing 18 House races shifting towards Democrats ahead of November's midterms, suggesting they are in a position at the moment to take back the House. It cited President Trump's current unpopularity as well as Democrats' success in the last special election cycle as reasons for the favorable environment. Let's bring in former Republican governor of Ohio, John Kasich, and former Democratic senator from California, Barbara Boxer. Senator, 18 races now leaning towards the Democratic Party. To what do you attribute this shift?
I love that question. You know, one of the benefits of being, shall we say, older is that you've lived a long time and you've seen so much. And when I was a young mother, times were really rough like this, very insecure, very chaotic, war in Vietnam, our young people dying. And there was a song that was done by Joni Mitchell. Don't worry, I won't sing it. But it says, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone.
I know that
and
one.
And I think,
yes,
all of us in our hearts, something's gone. And, you know, my dear friend John would have a different answer as to what is gone. But to me, I'll tell you a few things. Decency's gone. Justice is gone. Bipartisanship is gone. Fairness is gone. The American dream is fading. Opportunity is gone. And so I'm not surprised at this. And I think it could be even, you know, a bigger sweep because people feel it in their gut and they can't take it anymore. They want to change things.
What do you make of the Democratic momentum, Governor Kasich? Did the Republican Party lose touch with the public?
Well, you know, first of all, Barbara, she's a lyricist, and she understands how to get with the folks. And a lot of what she said there, I would agree with. I think that there's two things going on. I think there are many people now who are disappointed with this economy. They are really disappointed with the increase in prices. That's one thing the president promised, but we haven't seen those promises come true. And speaking about the soul of our country, if I just posted some stuff on Substack about what is happening in Minnesota. And, you know, the fact of the matter is there's talk now about whether they should use the Insurrection Act. In my experience, and I went through it as governor, many different challenges, you don't try to raise the pressure when you have a situation. You try to lower the pressure. And I think as Americans see these aggressive actions, look, most Americans want criminals to be deported. They want the border protected. But chasing mothers down and separating them from kids or any of these other things, the country, I've been saying this for months. They don't like it. They look at it as mean. And so I think that there are a couple things, but mostly it's the economy that's caused a challenge for the administration and Republicans. And so what I hope Democrats are going to do if they want to win is you got to stay on these affordability and some concerns about what's happening with ICE. But don't be drifting into these cultural debates because those are losers, and they have to be very careful about that.
I mean, there are a lot of issues people care about, and that might be behind that momentum for Democrats right now. But one thing is clear, poll after poll shows the president's approval going down. In fact, there's a CNN poll just out, too, that shows 58%, more than half of Americans say President Trump's first term is a failure. I mean, that is a gut check for this administration. And Senator ICE is obviously at the forefront of a lot of America's minds right now. Polls show many people are paying attention to that situation specifically. Another CNN poll found 51% of Americans say ICE enforcement actions were actually making cities less safe. A recent Economist YouGov poll shows 46% of Americans support abolishing ICE, not reforming ICE, not improving ICE, but actually abolishing ICE. Progressives are pushing Democrats to focus on abolish ICE as a platform, but there's, of course, concern that that could turn into a repeat of defund the police. That issue didn't end up going so well for Democrats. Senator, how does your party find that balance of meeting the moment but still focusing on issues like affordability?
Well, I do agree with John. Economy is always, you know, front and center, and we proved that with the last elections of those governors. So that's very, very clear. But yes, ICE is an issue. And I will tell you something. Democrats are not joined at the hip. They'll have different responses, and that's totally fine. For me, I would transfer what ICE does to community police in the states and have governors like when John Kasich was governor. I would trust him on that. Let them go after the criminals. But, you know, every once in a while, you should look at the Constitution. It's a great idea. And the Fourth Amendment reads as follows: the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. This is what's happening on our streets. And as John said, you know, when Trump said, I want to go after the vicious criminals, everyone said yes, that was fine, but not running down people. The last point I'll make is, because of the new social media, the ability for people to take these photos on their phones, this is not something you can try and persuade people isn't happening. They're seeing moms, dads, children being pulled out of their cars, thrown to the ground, beaten. They saw a woman shot in the face after she says, I'm not mad at you, dude. So people see it. So all of these issues together, it seems to me, it gives us momentum. We don't have to all dance to the same drummer on how we deal with law enforcement.
Governor, as those polls and even more show ICE is extremely unpopular right now, how do Republicans navigate this issue? The White House so far isn't backing down, even though their constituents are unhappy.
Well, this is what I was saying a little bit earlier in regard to ICE. I mean, what I think most people in law enforcement, and it's important to let them be heard in this, they don't think that we've had the training for ICE to do all the things that they're trying to do. And I think the Democrats ought to call for, and Republicans for that matter, ought to call for much stepped up training for how these folks react. I mean, I have a lot of friends in the Ohio State Highway Patrol, and I listen to their opinions on this. Improve the training. Secondly, I think that the left has to understand the rule of law. It's not like we just get rid of it or go abolish ICE. That gets you, and you said it, almost into the issue of defunding police. They have a role to do. And part of their role is to work with local communities, work with local law enforcement, at the same time to exhibit some toughness but compassion. That's what it kind of takes. Look, we went through shootings in Ohio, and I dispatched a couple people who were involved in terms of all the politics and the community, and we settled things down. Nina Turner, she sometimes appears on our channel. She led this along with our head of the Highway Patrol Public Safety, and they went into communities and they settled it down. There was cooperation. There was discussion. That's where Republicans and Democrats both ought to be. Respect the rule of law, but at the same time, make sure the law enforcement is trained to deal appropriately with things they see and focus on criminals, not on people who have been here for a long time, who have become part of a community. That's for an issue to be resolved through the whole comprehensive immigration reform.
It sounds like a lot of what you described may not be happening currently, and that is where the problem lies. We know that recruitment of new ICE people are leading to expedited training and perhaps expedited background checks situations. It's stuff we are uncovering as reporters and are going to continue to report out to hold people accountable.
We don't want to have government paid for bounty hunters here. That does not make sense, and we don't need it. We shouldn't have it, and there are other ways to do it.
Former Governor John Kasich.
We don't need secret police with masks on, for God's sake. It's ridiculous. It's wrong. It's not America.